Hey everybody, welcome to Stories Redeemed. My name is Brad.
And I'm Joy, and I'm so glad I could convince Brad to be on here and answer some questions. I thought it would be really helpful if he shared what it took as a husband, as a man, to win his family back. So, here we go.
Yeah.
Why did you decide
Oh, yeah.
that you wanted us?
Well, I think for me, I was kind of at a crossroads where I had been dating another gal for a couple of years, and really the next step was progressing that relationship or breaking it off. And so there was a season where I hadn't seen Tessa for almost a year at that point, and I had my first visit with Tessa, and her and I kind of had a big fight, and I realized, that my family, my daughter, was more important. And so we broke up at that time, and it really just put into perspective like the need for me to fight for my original family and to not be starting a new family and just having mixed families and drama. And I don't know, like I just saw the way that I was raised, and I realized that I didn't want that to be my child's reality. And so God just really put it on my heart to step into that role for my daughter, and then hopefully in the process completely restore my family. So I think that was the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I had a big challenge with like, are you sure that you want me?
Yeah, it was definitely a battle. I think for probably the first 6-8 months of us being consistently together, weekly, every other week, we had that conversation like, why me? And it was like, who you love is a choice, and love is an action, right? So you have to lay down yourself, you have to make that choice daily. And at the end of the day, like, I committed to you as a young man, we had a daughter together, and so I choose you in this instance because of those commitments originally, and because this is the ideal. Could I have gone on and had a relationship that worked well? Yeah, I could have. But there would always be some brokenness in the background that I couldn't quite restore. And so I think when you look at it from that perspective, it makes the most sense to go down the path of reconciling with the wife of your children, the wife of your youth. Obviously not getting to the point where you have to, but sometimes even inside a marriage, you can still have a point where you need to reconcile and make things good again.
So with that, you at one point talked about how like it was going to be work no matter what.
Yeah, I think when you're two flawed individuals, the fact that you're trying to come together and make a life together, there's going to be obstacles and difficulties. And I had a lot of the same problems that Joy and I had in my relationship outside that, and it started to dawn on me that those problems were a result of me and my past and my trauma, and kind of the way that I hadn't dealt with them, but just buried it and thought that I was okay and everything would be all right. And so it was like the work required is the same, it's just what is going to be greatest reward in my mind. And that was was restoring my family and seeing my daughter every night, and having a great relationship with her mother. And just to me it was a challenge, but I kind of at that point reveled in the challenge of it and thought, how cool will this be in the long run?
You did revel in the challenge.
I did, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
That used to bother me big time. I used to be like, okay, so you basically are only pursuing me because you want to see our daughter all the time and because it's really for her. And I think my understanding of your heart and everything at that time was so surfacey. Like, it was not just for our daughter, it was for us too as a couple. But man, how impactful as a kid. Like, I mean, being an adult now with divorced parents and not having to have to go through that as well. I mean, you kind of did. He'll share his testimony at one point.
Yeah.
But having been adopted into a family with two whole parents that were married and loved each other, and then experiencing divorce as an adult, like, it's still hard, right?
Yeah,
and
sure.
So I think we like to play it down in our country, like, divorce isn't really going to hurt the kid, they're resilient, they'll make it, like, don't worry about them, they'll be fine, like, as long as you're not fighting around them. You know what, sometimes kids need to see you fight through things and like fight for the good, and you need to resolve that, and you need to show them what it looks like to win those wars.
Yeah. And I think hiding the reality of marriage behind a door kind of cripples them, because then they get into a marriage and they start having those issues, and it's like, I don't know what to do. This isn't normal. My parents never fought.
Right.
So we've definitely had big conversations in front of our daughter and our children, and we usually resolve it in front of them and then clarify, if we made a mistake or where the miscommunication was, so that they understand, it takes work.
Right.
So.
And we own our stuff in front of them as well. Like, I shouldn't have said this, or your dad was right about that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some conversations that we have behind closed doors, especially when it comes to parenting. Like, we don't really correct each other in front of our kids in regards to parenting, or like, maybe not even correct, but say like, hey, I didn't appreciate how you handled this.
Yeah.
Those kind of things behind closed doors. How do you feel about individual counseling as compared to couples counseling, which we did the first time?
Yeah, I really think couples counseling kind of misses the mark with a lot of problems. I think it's good for learning how to work with one another, but I almost think kind of mentorship, people coming alongside of you and working through those things with you is more effective than seeing a couples counselor, because typically in my experiences, it's more of an individual problem that is causing some of the issues in marriage. And so getting to root those causes is, in our experience, way more impactful than a couples counselor. So, I went and I saw a therapist on my own for EMDR for, my past and kind of the baggage that I carried into the relationship. And that really unlocked a lot for me, took a lot of weight off my chest, and really freed me from some of the things that were causing me to struggle so highly. Since then, I've raved about EMDR, the effectiveness of it, and just encouraged everybody to go. If you're struggling in a marriage, obviously some of that issues could have come from your spouse or significant other, but a lot of the times it's not necessarily their doing. And so I think getting whole individually will then in turn impact your marriage in a positive direction, and then you can start to work on those issues that you're having. But a lot of times in our experience, it's been individual issues brought into a marriage that are unresolved, and then the marriage ends up suffering for it. So
even as you were talking about mentorship, I was thinking the reason mentorship worked for us so well is because we also had those individual relationships with our mentors outside of together. Like, they definitely walked through stuff with us together while we're both sitting down in front of both of them. But I had a very unique one-on-one relationship with my mentor, and so did you. And so,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there were times where I would be like, oh, I'm so mad at Brad, and he did this, and she'd laugh. And I'm like, why are you laughing? Like, I am hurt by this.
Yeah.
And just helping me like realize, okay, you're off here. It's good one-on-one.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff, I think, is a whole lot bigger when you're in the house, or in our experience, if you have small transgressions against one another that go unaddressed for a period of time, then it's like the thing that breaks the camel's back isn't the problem, it's everything leading up to that. But you can get so caught up in the minutia of what triggered it that you lose sight of everything, and you just communicate about the wrong things. And I can't tell you how many arguments we had. She's like, it's not about the ramen, and I'm like, just silly things like that. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So, but anyways, yeah.
Yep, maybe we'll tell you that story later.
Well, and with that being said, I think too, another thing that really I learned from counseling that was impactful was understanding like different words mean different things to each person. So mad to me and mad to her could be two totally different things. And so just kind of learning what's the definition of a word to, joy, and then making sure we're on the same grounds when we communicate.
Right.
So.
Learn how to speak your spouse's language. Learn how to interpret their words. Because for me, I'm like, oh man, that's so frustrating that like the stove, this one burner's not working. Like, it's not a big deal. It's not life changing. For me, it's annoying. Frustrating and annoying are kind of simultaneously used. And for Brad, he's like, man, I'm frustrated by this. And he's like, I'm frustrated. And I was like,
it's a little bit more than the burner's not working. So,
right. Yeah. So when he would say that, it didn't register to me that like, man, this is like a big deal for him. So yes. And I think that we might even be able to like share like a document with words where people can rate them. Maybe look below in the description.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the pros and cons of actually stepping into that role of husband and really choosing to be a man.
Yeah, I think the biggest pro was kind of just peace. As weird as it is, but it was the peace of not trying to juggle, different commitments to different people and just being able to be one person all the time. I think being a father is extremely rewarding. Being a good husband in a loving marriage is extremely rewarding in more ways than one. And there's no baggage hanging overhead of, this partner, that partner, this baby mama, that baby mama, just the drama of all that. And so just a ton of peace came from all of that. And then the other pro is being an example for my daughter. Like, I think about it too, and this is ultimately something that I got called out on, was just, would you want your daughter to date somebody like you? And it was a hard no for a long time. And then realizing, like, man, if my daughter found a husband that treated her the way that I treat my wife, like, I would be happy for her, and sacrificed, themselves the way that you have to inside of a marriage to have a healthy marriage and to have a healthy relationship, then I think she would be truly blessed by that. So ultimately, huge peace came out of it. And then just like the sense of pride of, like, all right, I am trying to be an example. I am working towards being an example every day for my family and my daughter, and for anybody else that looks into into our marriage. So anyways, yeah, I think that was the biggest pro.
And of, like, you can do this.
Yeah.
Like, you're not lacking anything that it takes to be the man.
Yeah, for sure. It's not easy, but it's worth it. At the end of the day, it was difficult to make the decision and to overcome my sins against Joy, but the reward was worth it. Who I am today, who we are today, the relationship, the kids we have, like, everything was totally worth it. And it's an easy decision to walk in every day. It's not like a huge pushing a boulder up a mountain moment. It's just you wake up and it is who you are. It is what you do. And I think that's been nice, that it's not a struggle every day, but it's just honoring that commitment and putting bumpers up and safeguards around you and your life and your choices so that it's not a hard decision to make.
Can you talk about those bumpers and safeguards, or is that too vulnerable?
No, not at all. I think for me, I've said to people, like, I liked women, and so just knowing, and that's what it is, I'm a guy, just knowing, like, culture is promiscuous, culture is lacking commitment, and so it's easy come, easy go, I think. And so just putting myself in a situation where I don't end up being one-on-one with a woman, and don't communicate with women directly. There's a couple exceptions to that, but very, very dear friends. And anyways, yeah, so just
or like two-stepping. This is how he won me back, is he took me on a date and we went two-stepping. And I loved it. This is what I did when we were divorced. It was so fun. And then we never did it again.
I don't like dancing.
And why?
I don't know. I just get uncomfortable. I think it's.
But why don't you like the country scene?
Oh,
two-stepping.
For me, it creates a lot of thoughts that are not
temptation.
Yeah, temptation especially. It creates a lot of temptation, and just even drinking in that environment. It's not healthy for me. It's probably
not healthy for anyone, really. Like.
Yeah.
Not that it's wrong for everyone, I'm just saying.
So, and I think that was one of the things that really helped our relationship, was me obviously reflecting on what causes me to struggle, what causes temptation in my life, and then communicating that with Joy in a way that she can kind of be aware of what I experience as a man. So just, like, pointing out simple things and then communicating around that so she understands where I'm coming from and why I don't like doing certain things. So, and I tell my kids, like, you'll never catch me in Dirks Bentley, Whiskey Row. You'll never catch me in some of these places because it's not healthy for me to be there.
So if any of you see him there,
yeah,
call him out.
You will not. I do not go there. I will not go there. So
what would you say? Because I know, like, sometimes I shouldn't be this way, but sometimes I'm hesitant to share our story with people who are struggling because you never know the depths of their challenges and what's going on, and if they are going to be redeemed or restored. So what would you say to those families? What should they do? Just to be the man and to make peace?
Oh, I wouldn't even know where to start, but I think the biggest thing is just being consistent, right? Being the same person all the time and communicating well, with everybody involved. Communication, I think without communication, relationships tend to die or tend to become infected. And so I really do think you got to spend a lot of time reflecting. You got to spend a lot of time observing the situation from kind of a third party perspective, and seeing kind of where the weaknesses are, where the areas that need reinforced are, and then moving towards that. And I think too, like just finding resources that you can relate to. So for me, there was a season where I was in my truck and I lived there, and the right books made it into my hand at that time. And they really kind of helped change my perspective from kind of victim mentality. I never would say I was a victim, but I definitely, why me? I asked that quite a bit. And then I realized, a lot of the stuff that you're dealing with is a result of your own choices. And so then it was, if I got into this situation, I can get out of this situation. And so, reading stories of struggle from other people, reading stories of hope from other people, really kind of changed my perspective and my attitude towards the hard work, towards the journey that I was going on, that I put myself on. So
what are some of those books? What would you recommend for men who aren't ready to make changes?
I think there was 3 that I would say for sure. Wild at Heart was a huge one. I really enjoyed that book. The Resolution for Men, that was another book that really kind of helped lay out what a husband is and is called to. And then the last one was A God Makes Men, yes, by Patrick Morley. And that was the first book I read that really kind of changed my perspective. And good, I think 10 biblical principles based on kind of the fathers of the faith. And yeah, it just kind of helped walk me through that season of life. So, but yeah, between How God Makes Men and The Resolution for Men, those were the 2 books I read in my truck, and that really kind of changed my perspective, the biggest outside of counseling.
Sorry to interrupt. How long do you think you were living in your truck?
It was not long, but it sure felt like a long time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, getting kicked out of parking lots in the middle of the night, just not having money for anything. But it was 2, 3, 4 weeks, and that was about it. But it was a huge impact. Yeah.
Pastor Tim's?
Yep. We had a pastor that was kind of counseling us as we were trying to reconcile the first time, and I ended up staying at his house for a few weeks before I moved back in with Joy, something like that. But yeah, it was just I worked and I lived in my truck and if I wasn't doing that, I was watching Tessa. And so reading, journaling, reading my Bible, listening to sermons, listening to worship music, it really kind of changed my spirit in that season. And God humbled me big time is ultimately what I think it was, because I realized based on everything I could do, here I was homeless in my truck, and it was not a fulfilling, it was not a good thought. Like, man, you really can't do this on your own. So, and I was, hard worker, smart, good in my field, but just nothing to show for it. And I was 20 something at that time, 26, I think. So anyways.
What'd your truck look like?
Oh man, people thought I probably had psychosis or something, but I was
schizophrenia.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. DSM nonsense. But anyways, I had verses. I had prayers written on my windows on the inside, and
covered.
The
whole inside of his truck
was
covered with like his writing and
Sharpie. On the windows.
That's probably why you're getting kicked out of some of these parking lots.
Yeah. But and I mean journaling in my book, but it's like when you kick your seat back and you're laying down in your front seat sleeping, because I had a Tacoma. I wasn't living the lap of luxury in my vehicle. It's like you just look over and there was this side window that I was writing on, and so I could just look at it all night. Whenever I woke up, I just right there. So it was kind of like my bathroom mirror, I would say, just that area where I saw it. So anyways, yeah.
So that's a good idea, like for people who are wanting to stay rooted in what's true and encourage themselves in the Lord. Do you remember any of those verses or anything that you'd look at repeatedly?
I don't. Nothing. I don't remember anything that's like I just remember some good highlights here and there, but I'm pretty good about letting go of certain things in the past. And I think too, like, those verses were good for that season of life, and now that I'm in a different season, it's not the same verses, So, but I do think the one that kind of sticks out through all time is, for I know the plans I have for you, right? So I still think about that today, and it's like, man, God has better for us if we're just willing to continue pursuing Him.
Yeah.
So.
Obey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what kind of advice would you give men who are wanting to win their wives back, or maybe on the verge of losing their wives?
Well, I would say it took a long time to get into the situation that you're in currently. In my experience, it didn't happen overnight, but be patient and be consistent, So, and be the bigger person. I know it sounds weird, but it's like you have to do the right thing to win your wife back. And I think that is being the man and husband that that you committed to being, right? So loving her, cherishing her, honoring her, and making those decisions that do those things. And so as you continue to do those things over time, that's how you start to rebuild that trust. And I think too, communicating. Obviously, it's very important to communicate with your spouse in this season. And another book that I read during that time that really helped, and I'm thinking about it now, but it was Attachments: Why We Act, Think, Love, Feel the Way We Do, something along those lines. But Dr. Gary Sibcy or Clinton, we'll put it in the description. But I started reading through that, and I really realized like kind of my attachment style, and it's like you could see different things based on how you're raised, and they talk about it, earned secure attachment. And so it's one of those things to where working through that with your spouse, building that relationship, building that connection, building that commitment and communication ultimately is extremely fulfilling, but it takes a lot of time. And so I think just stay the course, and be above reproach. If they're choosing not to do the work, if they're choosing to continue down the road they're going and it's not including you, then you're going to be better off for having done everything you can in your power, and you're going to sleep well at night knowing that you did what you could, And if you made mistakes, then I think obviously confessing those mistakes and apologizing and working to rectify those things as well is another big thing. So.
Right. What barriers do you need to put in place to prevent yourself from doing that again?
Yeah.
What needs to change?
Yeah. When taking ownership too, I think that was a big thing. Like I told the pastor, I said, man, 100%, our divorce originally was my fault. I was a total goon. And I think that was true even up until we got remarried again. And when you're young, it's easy to be a goon, and then having those mentors come into our lives really is what changed my perspective on a lot of things. And so sometimes I do think it is finding that couple that's 10 years down the road that has a good marriage. Obviously inspect for fruit. Sometimes it looks good, but it could still be bad on the inside. So anyways, I think of an avocado in this situation. Just give it a squeeze and you'll know. But anyways.
Sometimes you want them a little soft.
Yeah, a little soft's good, but not too much.
Not so hard that they're like business.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think too, you can tell when people are genuine and when people are transparent, and it's easy to buy into people. It's easy to build a relationship with people when they're genuine, and unfortunately, it's not very common.
How many times did you ask to meet with a mentor man at church?
A lot. Yeah, I had an older gentleman trying to connect me with people, and it was like a single college dude, a guy going through a divorce, and it's just like, where are these men, And we lived in a big city, and we went to a church in a college neighborhood, so I think that's part of it. But anyways, I got really discouraged and kind of just gave up on the idea after about 6 months of trying, and
the Lord provided.
Yeah, and the right season, and the right time. So, yeah. And I do think too, you might not always be able to find a person, but you can find a book, you can find an example outside of an individual that's meeting with you one-on-one, and that person can come along at the right time. So, anyways.
I do feel like the Lord has totally been impressing me with His word that says, seek me with all of your heart, and surely you will find me. Knock, and it'll be open. So I would encourage you to seek Him in finding that couple or that person that can walk with you. Obviously, you have the Holy Spirit, so ask Him for wisdom and discernment. Ask Him to show you the things that are needing to be changed and to grow you in. But He'll give you people too, because we're meant to be in relationship with others and walking this life with other believers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so avocado.
I know.
What would you say to the women who are tired of the repeat mistakes? Or the man who seems to be trying and takes 100% ownership and then is like
Doing the same things
being
still.
a dingus.
Yeah. Well, I think Joy did do a good job in this area the third time, but she put some real good boundaries in place, you know, and encouraged me to find other people to have these conversations with. And so I think, you know, at a certain point, you do need to protect your heart. You do need to put boundaries in place to show that you're serious and that they respect those boundaries. So it is important. And I think the other side of it too is putting your hope in God more so than the other person, and then just observing their actions and observing if there's fruit and consistency to it. Because it's easy to turn the pot on and look like you're starting to boil, but to sustain that for an extended period of time, I think is a big task and not something that everybody's willing to do. And they're just kind of the bare minimum to get back. So
Right.
I would definitely keep your guard up, you know, protect your heart. Don't put everything out on the line. And I would work on yourself. I think that's the other side of it too, is it's like in this season, you know, obviously there's stuff and there's baggage and there's hurts. Work on getting those resolved within yourself. Work on getting peace around those sorts of things and becoming a whole healthy individual. So, yeah, I definitely think for Joy during that season, she was very aware spiritually and plugged into the Lord and working on herself, and I saw that, you know, and that just encouraged me too. So there was a season where she was trying to hurt me or to make it clear that she didn't want anything to do with me, and I just kind of I told her, I said, oh yeah, well, I'll show you, or you know.
I wasn't okay.
Anyways,
why don't you just tell them what you're referring to, because that was not me trying to hurt you.
for the whole story.
I said,
oh, I'll never love you like that again. And I said, oh,
we'll see.
we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
That's like his favorite thing to tell people when we meet them and we're sharing our story. It's like, yep, she said this, and I said, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think too, like you almost have to have that optimism that.
For sure, as the husband trying to win back his wife.
Yeah, that.
And guys, she does want you to win her back, but she doesn't want you to do the same thing over and over again. Like nobody does.
Yeah.
You're not gonna keep touching a stove when it burns you, so I'll never touch you again.
Yeah, for sure. That was, I think, the biggest takeaway from our experience was, if you want it, if you're willing to work for it, then it's totally worth it. You know, looking at where we are now, the life we have, the kids we have, I'm just totally stoked. You know, I go to work, I come home tired, but I'm excited to be home. I'm excited to come into my house. There's peace, there's happiness, there's
boys to wrestle with.
Boys to wrestle with. There's life, and it's not a dreadful thing. You know, I see people just sit in their trucks after work or badmouth their wives or complain about this and complain about that, and I'm like, why would you want a miserable marriage? You know, why would you want to go through the bulk of your life with just this weight or this dread hanging over you? You know, and we pinch ourselves. We're like, man, we're like 5% of the marriage, the 5th percentile of like good marriages. We like each other. We're not arguing. I don't even think weekly. We don't have arguments. Once a month maybe, and it's usually silly things when we're tired or when we're taxed with overtime or whatever it might be, and it's quickly resolved. You know, sometimes it's Joy being the bigger person and saying, you know, I know you're not going to talk to me until I apologize, and I am sitting in there still, and I'm not saying anything until she says sorry. And
we're like something so dumb and trivial, like not even.
And I was
purpose.
the aggressor in the situation. Like I was the one who was being ridiculous. So, but anyways, and there's times where I've had to do something similar. Maybe not. But I do think
I'm sure
being one, and we talk about it too. It's like you can't have both people down at the same time. So, you know, if one's down, you kind of have to artificially pick it up, even if you're not feeling 100%, you know, kind of fill in the gaps where you can, and give grace, and don't boast about it. Don't hang it over their heads, you know, and Joy's really good about that.
Brad's really good at lifting the mood in our house with his jokes and his humor.
Yeah, goofing around. I'm just a big kid. We were going to a class this morning for my daughter, and it was kind of a bunch of high school kids, and walking in front of us, and I was just jumping up, grabbing the beams hanging over the top, and then like we turned the corner and all the high school boys are jumping up, grabbing those beams too, and I'm just like, one day I'll grow up. One day I'll grow up. But anyways, yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah.
What's that verse? Merry heart does good like medicine, something like that. Cheerful heart.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
We need laughter. Laughter's good like medicine.
Yeah. So, and there's definitely times where Joy and I will just cry laughing together because, we need it. I think just the weight of life, the responsibility of life, and kids, and just this world we live in, it could be heavy, and so sometimes you just gotta laugh hard with your spouse, and it just brings you together and creates such peace and joy in your house. So,
and just remember, God's in control. Like,
yeah,
might seem heavy, but nothing's too heavy for him. His burden's light.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah.
Okay, you said, I'm glad that you talked about it being a process to win your wife back, because we also met a gentleman at our old church back where we used to live who made mistakes. He wanted his wife back, and he was adamant, and I remember telling him it's gonna take time. It was not an easy, quick process for Brad to come back around. I mean, even when I knew that you wanted to come back around, I was like, look, you guys know I jumped in line and tried to date other guys because I'm like, there's no way. And I don't even think it was a month that he tried to just stay committed to his wife. And if you want to win your wife back, you need to make that decision now and not change that decision. I don't care if it takes a year, 2 years, you make that commitment, and like Brad said, be that person every day, regardless of what you are seeing in the flesh or experiencing. Choose to be that person. Just be one person. My goodness.
Well, and if you can't keep it up, this act for a month, what makes you think you could do it for a marriage, for a lifetime? And I think that's the other thing too, is I saw it with my parents, but it's easy for that marriage to fall apart when you quit doing the basic things, when the communication starts to fade, when the enjoyment of one another starts to fade. You have to maintain that. You have to put effort into those things to make sure that you have a relationship that is going to stand the test of time, and it'll ultimately be extremely fulfilling for you as well. So yeah, I think that was the thing that I saw was, a lifetime relationship. And why would I want to lose a relationship, try and build another one with the baggage and the trauma or the drama? It's not worth it. And things are getting even weirder nowadays. I would not want to try to build another relationship with another person. And it's easier to maintain a good relationship with my wife now. So, yeah.
You don't want to date some girl who wants to propose to herself, do you?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I would not. Out their own proposals now. That's new news to me.
I told them, I said no chance. No chance I would date somebody that tried to do that. I just would not do that. So, anyways.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for answering some questions. I hope that blessed you guys, and just know you're loved.